Apologies for those of you who've been waiting for the board. We had a lengthy closed session agenda today. But at this time, I'd like to ask Trustee Garcia if she would convene the Committee on Collective Bargaining.
Thank you, Chair Monville. Would the Committee on Collective Bargaining please come to order? The first item on today's agenda is the approval of the minutes from the March 2016 meeting. Is there any objection to the approval of the minutes? Okay. There are no corrections or no comments. Hearing none, then the minutes are approved. There are two action items on today's discussion agenda seeking committee approval. We will also hear public comments before taking any action. Item 1 is the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 3, the California Faculty Association. And item 2, the adoption of initial proposals for a successor collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 11, the United Auto Workers. Both items will be presented by Vice Chancellor Lori Lamb. Ms. Lamb?
Thank you, Chair Garcia. As you mentioned, the first action item is the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 3, the California Faculty Association. Over the last several months, we have talked many times about ongoing negotiations with the California Faculty Association, or the CFA. I'm very pleased that we are able to reach a tentative agreement and avoid a system-wide strike by our faculty. The tentative agreement is before you for action this morning and has been ratified by the CFA membership. We strongly believe that coming to this resolution was very much in the best interest of the CSU, our students, and our faculty. The first thing to note about the tentative agreement is that this is a multi-year agreement. The fact that the parties were willing to look beyond the confines of this current fiscal year, 2015-16, was the critical factor in constructing an agreement that both sides could support. With regard to salaries, our faculty will receive a 5% general salary increase on June 30th, 2016, and a further 2% increase on July 1, 2016. For all practical purposes, this is a 7% increase effective July 1, 2016. There's no retroactivity, so the money that had been slated for increases in 2015-16 for our faculty will be applied towards the 2016-17 increases. Faculty will receive a further 3.5% general salary increase on July 1 of 2017. In addition, there will be a 2.65% service salary increase in fiscal year 2017-18 for all eligible faculty. CSU estimates that approximately 43% of faculty will be eligible for this increase, and the cost of implementing this will be the equivalent to 1% of the compensation base for faculty in 2017-18. The final salary-related item is that the amount paid to faculty upon promotion from assistant to associate professor or associate professor to full professor will increase to a minimum of 9%, up from 7.5%, to help aid in retention of critical tenure track and tenured faculty members. Other important factors in the tentative agreement are, as I mentioned previously, this is a multi-year agreement that now provides agreement on all terms and conditions through June 30th of 2018. There will be a doubling of the vesting period for retiree health benefits from 5 years to 10 years for all new faculty employed after July 1, 2017. This is an important shift resulting in long-term cost savings for the system. We will subsequently be asking the board to provide for the same vesting period for all executive, MPP, and confidential employees as of that same date. The CFA and CSU agreed to form a working group to produce recommendations on range elevation procedures for temporary faculty, a long-standing issue. We also agreed to jointly develop a side letter on areas of future cooperation so that we can more effectively advocate and work with our faculty in the future. And we are already doing so in this legislative session with regard to our budget. In summary, the tentative agreement that is before you provides some significant relief to those many dedicated faculty across our system. It also avoids the disruption of services to our students, which is in the best interest of our students, our faculty, our staff, and the university itself. We know that there is still more work to do that needs to be done, but this is a good step in the right direction. Other elements of this tentative agreement represent significant progress in supporting our faculty and students and in long-term cost savings, and most importantly, in working together with the CFA. As such, staff recommends ratification. The second action item is the adoption of initial proposals for a successor collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 11, the United Auto Workers, or UAW. CSU's proposals were previously distributed as part of your printed materials, and UAW's proposals were distributed this morning. These employees are our teaching associates, graduate assistants, and instructional student assistants. As is normal in successor contract negotiations, CSU and the UAW will conduct a full review of the current agreement to determine what areas of the agreement should be amended so as to minimize ambiguous contractual language and maximize operational effectiveness. CSU will also be making substantive proposals on salary, benefits, appointments, and workload. Staff recommends the adoption of these initial proposals. That concludes my presentation, Chair Garcia.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb, for your presentation. We will now hear public comment from those who signed up to address the board today. I'd like to thank you all for making time to be here, and again, apologies for the delay. We do have 13 speakers signed up, and in order to be respectful of their time, I want to just let you know we've got about 2 minutes per speaker, so please help us respect each other's time with that. So I'd like to call up just a first few. Ricardo Uc with CSU EU, Rocky Sanchez, Vice Chair of Business Unit 7, and Rich McGee.
Oh, sorry. The great news is CSU is already ahead of national trends by offering 6 weeks of full paid parental leave to all CSU employees. There are many additional benefits and programs afforded to employees, both by the state and federal governments, which allow new parents to take additional time off to care and bond with their new child. There are also many benefits and options to help new parents return to work and make this transition easier, including supporting working mothers who would like to continue to nurse their child. The bad news, the CSU as a whole is not doing a very good job of supporting employees at this critical point in their careers. For the CSU as a whole, there is a void of information and lack of transparency for expecting and new parents on what benefits, rights, and options are available, how to use them, including processes. There is a lack of coordination among staff on campuses implementing these benefits and an overall bureaucratic paperwork to use these benefits. As a result, many expecting and new parents feel unsupported. This can leave employees feeling frustrated at the CSU and their jobs, leaving some new parents to be less productive workers and even some to quit. Let me restate, the CSU has great benefits and options for expecting and new parents. The problem is that the information of these benefits and rights is not easy to find or understand. Many employees are frustrated at the lack of ease in finding the information and how to understand it. Both employees and supervisors have many questions. We're not asking for additional funding nor additional benefits. What is needed is to highlight these wonderful benefits with easier to understand documents on how these programs work for the benefit of our employees. My personal thanks to Christine Sarwatari, a CSU staff member and a new mother, for all her information and research on this topic. I've had the pleasure to deliver it to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rocky Sanchez, Bargaining Unit 7 Chair, CSUEU, and I'm here before you to bring up a subject I have brought up several times, and that's in regards to surveillance cameras. Wondering where or if there will ever be a system-wide policy for surveillance cameras. We still have 3 campuses that we had done a meet and confer, and nothing has been done. No follow-up. Those 3 campuses are still sitting on whatever it is that they feel they can sit on because there is no movement within a system-wide policy for surveillance cameras. There's even one campus, and I know this for a fact, that they said that they're not going to do anything. They don't want any meet and confers because they are waiting on a system-wide policy. In the meantime, on that campus, the cameras are rolling, and still there is nothing going on. So I bring to you the question, will there be a system-wide policy or not? Is it something to delay this as the campuses do what they feel like they want to do, and ignoring the campuses that have actually done a meet and confer and working towards a solution or resolution of the meet and confer and not just sit on it? So again, I hope that we have a system-wide policy regarding surveillance cameras. Thank you.
Rich McGee, State Chair, CSUU Bargaining Unit 9. CSUU recently was informed that the CSU is working to finally create centralized non-smoking policies system-wide. We thank you for this, as it will eventually make all of our campuses healthier places to work, learn, and visit for every individual. Policies for issues like video surveillance, which you just heard about, and IT acceptable use policies are also common touch points across all campuses. Development of a centralized system master policy for these common issues means that we only need one meeting, not 24 separate meetings. Because these policies are common to all of us, they do not threaten or impinge upon campus autonomy at all. Any corporation who conducts business in multiple locations recognizes this. A bank does not conduct 24 bank policies for each of the 24 branches. They have one central policy and apply it equally. We hope that CSU will do likewise and centralize common policies wherever possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Sergio Roldan, Sandip Roy, and Celia Devoy.
Good morning, Board of Trustees. My name is Sergio Roldan, and I'm the statewide Vice Chair of Unit 5. I'm from the San Bernardino campus, where I have served proudly for 23 years. One of our biggest concerns is the lack of movement through the pay ranges. This past Saturday, my wife and I attended a benefit dinner dear to my heart that was $250 per plate. Proceeds were for college scholarships for low-income children. I had the pleasure of seeing Dr. Morales. Hello, Dr. Morales. The point I'm trying to make is that I love to give back to the community, but it's hard to do so with stagnant salary movements through the pay ranges. Thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good afternoon, I guess. I'm Sandip Roy, the president of United Auto Workers 4123. I'm also a grad student and a teaching associate at Fresno State. Hi, Dr. Castro. We'd like to present our initial bargaining demands as has been ratified by our membership. We have a unique relationship with CSU in the sense that we're both students and instructors. We're both on the supply side and the demand side, and we feel like we're being exploited on both ends. We receive meager wages, and most of which we return back to the university in the form of tuitions and fees, leaving us with nothing but debt. And as we know, student debt is a social issue now, not only an issue for CSU. So to improve the working conditions of academic student employees and the overall quality of education, we have the following initial demands. First is improved compensation and benefits to match our contribution to CSU's success. Pay raises that are commensurate with the high cost of living in California. I live in Fresno, and as some of you know, cost of living in Fresno is not that high, but even in Fresno, for teaching associates, housing is almost unaffordable, let alone places like San Francisco or San Diego or San Jose, where cost of living is off the charts. Tuition waiver for all academic student employees. We're the only bargaining unit where we don't get tuition waivers, and some of us do, some of us don't, so we'd like for that to be more equal across the board. Parental leave, regardless of gender, because many of the TAs have children and they get no parental leave at all, or leave at all. And then healthcare benefits, of which very few of us get some healthcare benefits, but most of us get none. So that's a huge issue for us as well. Secondly, we would like our workplace conditions to promote safety, diversity, and access, mainly access to all gender bathrooms, or access to bathrooms of genders that people identify with, so people don't have to fear for their life or fear for assault on them when they go to the bathroom. Also, stronger protection against all forms of discrimination, bullying, and sexual harassment from supervisors. Thirdly, and lastly, improved quality of training to increase student success, so more pedagogical training and more paid training for academic student employees so they can serve the students better. So to further elaborate on these conditions, we have a few speakers from the different CSU campuses. Anthony?
Hello, my name is Anthony Guy, and as of Saturday, I am proud to announce that I am a double alumnus of the CSU system. I just finished my master's degree at Cal State Fullerton. Go Fullerton. Also, BA from Long Beach State, so I'm looking at you over there as well. I'm going to present, if it pleases the board, I'm going to present the testimony of my good friend Saleha Devo, who cannot be here today. I'm comfortable in speaking for my friends and colleagues who work as teaching assistants and tutors when I say that we love our work. Most of us are driven by a passion for our fields of study and a love of helping fellow students learn. We are grateful for the opportunity to tutor, teach, and research, and for the time and dedication of the directors and advisors in our programs who are just as passionate about helping us grow as teachers as they are about teaching themselves. But we are not just students, we are employees. We are adults with financial responsibilities living in some of the most expensive housing markets, paying some of the highest gas prices in the nation. Often, most of the money or all the money that we make goes back into paying our tuition and paying back in university and fees. Then we have to take out loans in order to live, and sometimes those loans are combined with outside work we have to do in order to lessen the debt load, but increases burdens on our times and resources, and that's the time and resources that we should be dedicating to our students. We are students because we want to dedicate our lives to the pursuit of excellence in our fields of study to further the boundaries of knowledge and help others do the same. But the ability to do those things is mediated by our ability to feed and clothe ourselves and often our dependents. The university saves a great deal of money in hiring student workers, and in turn, we benefit from on-the-job training from experts who monitor our growth, but the low pay and minimal benefits we receive come as a great cost to us personally and financially. I am a student. I am an employee of the CSU system, and I am also a mother. Keep in mind, I'm reading someone else's testimony. Part of being able to give my best to my professors and students, I hope, is knowing that I can care for myself and our loved ones. Students, especially graduate students, are also parents. Many of us become parents while we are students. Paid leave for new parents should be a right for all workers, student workers included. The mental well-being and care of the CSU, of us, is the mental well-being and care for all CSU teaching associates, graduate assistants, and ISAs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to now invite to the mic Francisco Camacho, Hannah Zuckerman, and Brandon Edwards Schultz.
Thanks for the introduction. Wasn't expecting that. I'm Francisco Camacho from CSU San Francisco. I'm here just to elaborate a bit more on the point concerning discrimination. So as I'm sure we all know, understand, discrimination makes student employees feel alienated, unsafe, and unwelcome. It hurts the quality of their work, and as their work is the success of our students, it lowers the quality of student learning. So if the university is committed to the success of its students, then it should be committed to the security of all of its student employees, including the ones that don't identify with the traditional gender categories. So this is the message that we've received from our membership, loud and clear. Make bathrooms all gender, and thereby make all student employees safe, and thereby more productive. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hannah Zuckerman, and I'm from Cal State Long Beach. I'm going to talk about student debt. So I'm going to share how student debt affects me, my friends, and my fellow students. We all share the same fear, shame, and anxiety. Fear that we will have no way out of debt when we graduate. Shame that we have gone back to school to better our lives and to only come out with even more debt, with no guarantee of a stable income afterwards. And the anxiety of how this will continue to affect us 10 and 20 years from now. We are here to fight and demand that more needs to be done to fear this, to ease this fear, shame, and anxiety. We demand pay increases so that we can quit our second jobs, more hours so that we can have one stable, secure paying job, and health benefits so that we can not have to worry about if we get sick or if anything happens to us. We are also asking for fee waivers so that we can focus on paying for food and rent and not have to worry about paying for rent, food, and tuition. Like we've heard before, we live in some of the most expensive cities in California, and we can't afford to do all three. We are students as well as employees. And how is it possible for us to do both if we are struggling to make ends meet? All other bargaining units on campus have fee waivers. One of my bosses that I worked for at the university worked for 30 years before becoming an administrative assistant on campus, and only then was she able to afford to go back to college. She paid $3 to get her degree. We need to have these demands met for the future of a productive academic workforce and academic student employees. Without this, you will lose a vital part of your academic workforce. Thank you.
Good morning. Still some time to say that. My name is Brandon Edward Schuth. I'm a recent graduate student, completed a philosophy department at San Diego State University, and the UAW Vice President of the Southern California District. Today I'm going to read you a testimony from a former student, or a current student at SDSU. My name is Lydia, and I'm a PhD student studying geography at SDSU. I've been a graduate student for 6 years, completing both a master's and a PhD. My testimony today draws from my own experience as well as the experiences of my friends and peers who have struggled to varying degrees with educational costs and student debt. During my time at SDSU, I've incurred over 80 grand in debt and continue to amass more loans as I struggle with the rising cost of living in San Diego. My debt load is far lower than many of my graduate student peers who have amassed over $150,000 in student debt. The current stipend of $18,000 a year before taxes cannot cover the cost of rent and living costs in San Diego. In fact, according to a recent livability study conducted by MIT, the approximate living wage for one adult in San Diego is $28,000 a year. When accounting for taxes and rising fees, my take-home salary is approximately $12,500 a year. Over 85% of my salary goes back to the university in fees. These rising fees are a thinly veiled attempt to attain more revenue without having to raise tuition. The impact for me and my peers have resulted in ever-amassing debt that will likely follow us for years, if not decades, after we graduate. I've seen the stress of this debt combined with the demanding teaching and research loads resulting in health issues, precarious living situations, and increased burnout that has extended or reduced their likelihood of degree completion. Many of us have had to, at times, seek outside employment to supplement our salary and loans just to make ends meet. I urge the Board of Trustees to do everything in their power to begin addressing the issue of graduate student debt at CSU. As a university system whose mission it is to provide an affordable and accessible education, the rising costs and debt are threatening this mission at the expense of thousands of students. So this is not just an issue for Lydia, but for all CSU students. In essence, the cost of tuition is too damn high and the pay is too low. We want to be treated as academics instead of just cheap labor. We are the future generations. We may not be directly your children, but indirectly we are. We are the future, and we present to you one of our flyers that has thousands of digitalized signatures from students all over the CSU region in support for our demands.
Thank you.
So,
Will someone bring that up? Can you take that up? Okay.
can someone please take this?
Yes, someone.
Thank you.
Someone, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're also going to hear next from Jennifer Egan, Kevin Ware, Jonathan Karp, and Ejmin Hakobayan. Sorry for mispronouncing that.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jennifer Egan, president of CFA. Chancellor White and the Board of Trustees, I want to thank you for your support of the tentative agreement with CFA. While last year's campaign had the effect of uniting and galvanizing the faculty behind a common purpose, it was rough on all of us. An extraordinary amount of work for the faculty, the stress of uncertainty for our students, and I'm sure it wasn't very much fun for you either. It could have been so much easier. I hope that we are charting a new course moving forward, knowing that we all want the best for the CSU and for our students, though we may disagree on the methods of how to get there. I hope that in the future we can keep the lines of communication open. Clearly, the faculty union, managers, and the board will not always agree, but I would hope that we would engage in some discussion before coming again to the brink. CFA reached out to try to communicate with every member of the board, including the chancellor, to meet informally to discuss how to reach an agreement and avoid the strike. I think that had these conversations happened, we may have been able to come to a common understanding of the situation, or at least understood each other's perspectives better, and perhaps come to an agreement sooner. I also hope that you will believe us when we say that it remains the case that the faculty feel that they can no longer afford to teach in the CSU. This is a good settlement with significant gains in faculty salaries, but the hole was very deep to begin with, and it has not fixed all the problems. Deep problems remain in our salary structure that are demoralizing to the faculty. It is difficult to attract and retain new faculty, including lecturer faculty, by the way. And we are dismayed about the ratio of tenure line faculty to lecturer faculty, which keeps getting worse as we admit more students and more faculty are on the verge of retirement. That said, I want to thank Chancellor White and the trustees for intervening at the end, and to thank anyone advocating for a settlement behind the scenes that I may not know about. My hopes for next year are pretty high and well-grounded. We are now on a bargaining schedule in accordance with HERO, where we can bargain for the successor contract prior to soliciting the legislature for funds. I am encouraged by the recent conversations that I have had with Chancellor White. We have a year to work together before we start negotiating the successor contract, and I'm looking forward to working to strengthening the CSU with you going forward. This was fun. Let's not do it again.
Kevin Weir, Professor of Sociology at CSU Sacramento, Chair of the bargaining team for CFA. I'd like to start by saying I stand also in solidarity with our graduate students. Thank you. Student debt, not just for graduate students, but for undergraduate students, is an immense concern. It's a concern and a conversation that President Obama has initiated, that Hillary Clinton has initiated, and that Bernie Sanders has initiated, and it's time that this board take up that challenge seriously. Like Ms. Lamb, I am also pleased to have averted the strike, this historic strike, last month. Today, you'll take a ratification vote on this tentative agreement, and the faculty have already voted to ratify. I, like Ms. Lamb, do ask you to affirm this tentative agreement so that the salary increases can be processed and implemented as soon as possible. I was dismayed to hear, however, that some portion of the salary increases will be borne by campuses, by the local campus budgets, rather than being funded centrally. One of the major themes of this last year, both in my comments to this board and in the Fact Finders report, was that the CSU has the money to fully fund these increases without defunding other crucial programs that support faculty in our service to the students. That is the core mission of high-quality public instruction for the students of California. But we already hear campus management crying poor. Already, we've seen campuses reducing funding for essential programs, such as at the College of Ethnic Studies at San Francisco State. This is unacceptable, especially as we fight together for increased funding to the CSU system in the halls of the Capitol in Sacramento. This tentative agreement brings with it a full year of labor peace. We'll begin bargaining in 14 short months. This next year was intended to offer us all the gift of time to work together and build a better relationship. Don't pass over this prospect by forcing students into hunger strikes or overloading faculty with higher workloads. Don't test the patience of legislators at this crucial moment. We have an opportunity to create a mutually beneficial working relationship over this next year, with an eye towards negotiating a successor contract in 14 months. Don't waste this chance with poor decisions that divide rather than unite, and don't squander this opportunity to build trust with the faculty and our students. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Karpf. I've been a lecturer at San Jose State University Department of Anthropology since 1987. I've been the AVP for Lectures North with the CFA since 2009, and a member of the bargaining team since 2007. Today, you will take a ratification vote on the tentative agreement with the CSU faculty that the faculty have already ratified overwhelmingly. Like my colleagues, like Ms. Lamb, I also urge you to affirm this tentative agreement because it is in the best interest of the CSU Board of Trustees, the CSU faculty, the CSU students, and the state of California. I'm here today to also urge you to take seriously the only unfinished aspect of that tentative agreement. That's when the working group, of which I'm a member, meets later this summer to sort of hammer out the details of disarticulating SSI raises from lecturer range elevation. As our Chancellor Tim White came to realize during the reopener bargaining that settled our incipient strike, the CBA language governing the ability of a lecturer to even apply for movement on the salary schedule is a classic catch-22. This is because, like our tenure line colleagues, lecturers have to be in their salary range for 5 years in order to apply. But unlike our tenure line colleagues, our full-time base salary has to be at the SSI max of our range in order to even be able to apply. For those of you for whom this is Greek, SSIs, or service salary increases, are conventionally known as step increases. Other state employees regularly get step increases of 4.8%, larger than our 2.65%. They don't have to bargain theirs, and theirs are not costed against their general salary increases. Also, unlike SSIs, the other kind of raise we get, general salary increases, move the minimum of each salary range, the SSI max of each salary range, and the maximum of each salary range by the exact percentage of the GSI. This has the net effect of keeping that SSI max the same distance from the faculty member as before they got the GSI. Therefore, the lack of SSI since 2007-2008 has hurt all Unit 3 members, and their absence for so long has led to the widespread salary inversions that has really undermined faculty morale. But their absence has doubly hurt lecturers, the new faculty majority, the 60% of the faculty by headcount, because anybody who wasn't eligible 10 years ago has not been eligible since for movement. So I urge you to approach our upcoming bargaining later this summer in good faith. With this tentative agreement, we have turned a corner, and the future holds great promise of labor peace and collaboration between the Chancellor's Office and CFA in seeking to restore adequate funding for the Cal State University system. Please don't squander the goodwill that has been created. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. My name is Ejmin Hakobian, and I'm the student body president at Cal State Los Angeles. I would like to take the opportunity to thank faculty, staff, and administrators for their valuable contribution to CSU and higher education. I would also like to recognize and thank CSSA executive team, staff, and student trustees for doing an exceptional job of advocating for students and higher education. I'm here today hoping to initiate a conversation about what truly shared governance should look like and what the role of student leaders should be in decision-making process at a campus and state level. I would like to urge you all to prioritize conversation in regards to inclusive shared governance and decision-making process. As you might know, the shared governance has different meaning on each campus, and there are no clear procedure and clear procedures for campus administrators and student leaders to use as guideline for engagement. This issue is continuously source of heated debates on many CSU campuses. Debates are good, but too much heat is not good. We need to make fundamental and cultural and procedural change to ensure student leaders in the CSU have necessary tools and support systems. All students should freely and without any fear of rejection have the opportunity to develop their ideas and express them regardless of the fact if those ideas are aligned with the agenda set forth by campus administration or even the Chancellor's office. Because at the end of the day, all new ideas seem to be crazy and radical before they become widely accepted and the norm. Dear trustees, please consider adoption of a code of conduct in the beginning of the academic year to be used as a guideline for shared governance. Dear Chancellor White and Dr. Blanchard, please consider setting expectation to emphasize on shared governance and creation of training program to cultivate mentor and mentee relationship amongst administrators and student leaders. As an institution, we need to be proactive and we should take pride in effectively solving complex challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to all the speakers for your comments and information that you've shared and provided to us. At this point, I just want to check in and see if there are any questions or comments from the board. Okay. Seeing none, we will move forward. The committee for collective bargaining, the members will now take action on the items. The first, the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 3, the California Faculty Association, is an action item before the committee. Only committee members may vote at this time. May I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Trustee Day.
Chair Garcia, I'd just like to take this opportunity. Obviously, it's a very positive day today. I'd like to thank Ms. Egan and all of CFA for all of your efforts. I'd like to thank Chancellor White and Lori Lamb and all of staff's efforts as well, the presidents and their staffs on each campus. Obviously, we're having a much different conversation today than had we not come to an agreement, and that's something that I think that we can all celebrate. It's the right thing to do. I think it's important for the board to send a message to faculty and staff, all faculty and all staff, that they're valued and the work that they do is important to the ultimate mission, which is students and student success. Obviously, there's a cost involved here, and everything that we do with the cost implication is about setting policies and priorities. And so this is a reflection of that. And I think it's important to realize, though, that moving into the future, things will be different. And so we will need to continue this partnership, especially with CFA, as we look for creative ideas to solve our fiscal challenges. We can't rely on the governor and the state legislature to continue to send money to the CSU to pay all of these bills. We have new capital needs, deferred capital needs. We have pensions, healthcare costs, retiree costs, and most importantly, students. So existing students and future students and student demands for the future. So while there's the ability to absorb these costs now, we need to think creatively in the future and look to a broad-based coalition of solutions, if you will, not just state general fund dollars and not just tuition, but efficiencies, P3s, and other creative and innovative ideas that hopefully our friends in labor can help us to coalesce and generate support across the spectrum so that we can solve these problems without impacting, because the future, if the past is any indicator, will be difficult, whether it's a year or 2 or 3. So we need to be prepared for that so that we can address all of our needs, not just salaries, but all of the other needs as well. So with that, again, I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work and dedication and getting us here today, and look forward to a brighter future.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Comments?
Well, I just want to second that in terms of the hard work that went on both sides, and hope that we can work together to work with stakeholders and continue to serve students and continue to get the support of Joan Dean from Sacramento.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? None. The action item, ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 3, the California Faculty Association, is approved. We'll move on to the next. Almost feels like there should be some cheer, hurrah, but yes, we're all very excited. We'll now move to the adoption of the initial proposals for a successor collective bargaining agreement with our Bargaining Unit 11, the United Auto Workers. And this is an action item before the committee. Only committee members may vote at this time. So may I have a motion? Second. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, seeing none, the action item, which is the adoption of initial proposals for a successor collective bargaining agreement with Bargaining Unit 11, the United Auto Workers, is approved. Chair Monville, that concludes the business of the Committee on Collective Bargaining.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. We will now break for lunch. We will reconvene the board at 1 p.m. We will take up the items in the morning that we have not yet taken up at the end of our afternoon agenda. So when we reconvene at 1 o'clock, we will go to Ed Policy and start the balance of the afternoon agenda. We will see you at 1. Thank you.
Please adjust your audio accordingly.